Go. Hello and welcome, beautiful women of the red tent. Welcome to the new moon in Gemini. Super looking forward to this circle. Gemini, it is more of an intellectual sign, so we're gonna have just more of an intellectual conversation today that I've particularly been looking forward to for a long time. So thank you for being a yes. And yeah, so I'd like to take a moment. I'm going to share a little bit about the Gemini. So the Gemini new moon is happening on Thursday. So we are in the dark moon. We have a couple of days where we're actually in the opportunity, in the process to release. We're almost like going through the death period to just shed anything, right? More shedding. Yeah. Well, we have that built-in system where once a month we get this opportunity to continue shedding more layers, more and more layers.
Continue perpetuation of layers.
Yes, the infinite layers that keep unfolding. But every month we do pick up energies. Every month we do, experiences that either bring up sadness, pain, and so that's the beauty of the lunar cycle, is that gives us an opportunity to rejuvenate and just to let those parts of ourselves die. So just be aware of that, so that when the new moon comes in, at least that's coming in. So when the new moon comes in, then we can set our intentions, right, from a clear place, from our, right, like our truth, and so we can, really plant the seeds from that, just grounded in really authentic place. And oh, Juliana's coming in. Highly said, thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. and yeah, and we've actually been coming along. We've done some pretty deep ceremonies, deep circles that we've had. The last few circles we had, the last one was Earth, so we connected to the mother goddess Hathor, very loving goddess, and then prior to that was the Aries new moon. So we really started, that was the beginning of the cycle. And so now we are, hi Juliana, welcome, thank you for being here. Yeah, and so now we are in a masculine sign, in a more intellectual sign. So I'd love to share a little bit about just the context for the circle tonight, and then I'll guide us through just like a quick grounding meditation before I introduce our special guest for today. Who her special guest? Actually, I want to now share and show around everybody that's in the circle here today. Say hello, Rainbow. Hi. And then who do we have over there? We have Sally. Welcome, Sally. Thank you for joining us. We have Sister Ali and Asha, all the way from the Wild Femmes. We have a special special visit from the Wild Femmes. And then we have Sister Kim and Abby over there. Hello. Beautiful. Oh, Nady's here. So I realized that I usually do this before I hit record, and then people on the replay cannot see everybody that's in. So I made a mental note for this time to do it after. So, so here it is. Beautiful. So I love to share. Hi, Clau. Welcome. Hi, Nady. Oh, Tasnova is joining us too.
Hi,
Yay.
sis.
Hello. Welcome. Lumita. Oh, look at that. The whole gang is here. Beautiful. Welcome, sisters. So I'd like to share a little bit about just the context for the circle tonight. Monique might be joining us at 8, so it's going to be a little bit later. We'll see when we can fit that in and dance with that. And so, yeah, just to get us started. So Gemini is the third house of the zodiac, and it is ruled by Mercury. And in astrology, Mercury is associated with intelligence, with wisdom, and with logic. And then, so it is said that those who are born under the Gemini or the Virgo, which is the other sign that Mercury rules, are very rational thinkers and competent speakers by nature. Are you a Gemini?
I'm a Virgo.
You're a Virgo. So it's it's so perfect because when oh my God, I love it because when I was tuning into, I'm like, I knew it was about communication for this specific sign, and you just and I knew I wanted to, I wanted nonviolent communication to be shared, and I just had you in my mind. It was just like, no, Francesca was it. It's just like I really, out of like all the people, you're one of the best like communicators that I know. Like the way you communicate is just, yeah. So I knew you would be the one that can carry that torch. And
The stars are confirming it.
there you go. Now you have confirmation. Yeah. So the main, insight for me for this nonviolent communication is just feels so important for us to learn the skills right now in the world. And it is a way where we can just, create shift and healing in our communications. Like if we can do it at home with the people that we are at our odds with, or even just in general, I really feel this is a way that we can touch people's lives, right? In communication and the nonviolence consciousness that we're about to understand and to learn about feels like a very important key of the process. So yay. So thank you for being here, being part of that. And so another aspect of tonight is that so Gemini is symbolized by the twins, and the twins signify duality, right? So it's also duality and versatility. So it's also invites just an opportunity to just be adaptable, right? And to consider all sides of the spectrum, right? The light and the dark as well. And so the chakra that is associated with Gemini, as you would probably tune in, is the throat. So we're going to be really rounding into the throat. So who here feels like your throat chakra could use more balancing? Yeah.
That would be me.
All right, let me see online. Who else? Yes.
Me.
Same here, same here.
Across the board, right? All across the board. And I don't know if I ask men, if they would say the same thing, that would be an interesting exercise to see where we're at with that.
Me too. Same.
Yes, okay. But yeah, it really feels, important to balance that for all of us as we move forward in our feminine, in our embodiment, in all the beautiful things, that as women we're exploring, especially in this divine feminine space. So the chakra is the throat chakra. And so the color associated with the throat chakra is the blue. So the blue symbolizes the connection between the body, the mind, and the soul. And unlike red and yellow, which are the other two primary colors, which are associated with activity and movement, blue drives attention to stillness, to tranquility, and to connecting with divine. Which I think it's, super important, especially we are in the space of the red tent and all this energy and passion. And so I almost wanted to put it out there to dress blue. Maybe we'll do it next time. And you actually did. Actually, look at that. Ali, we're blue today. So yes, I think that's something that I may incorporate in the future because it is important to balance, and that's what I love about the circles, the new moons, and just the lunar cycle is that every month we have a new opportunity, right, to work with a different aspect of ourselves that we haven't necessarily connected with, and so with all of that, I would love to now just kind of guide us into just a transition and grounding meditation. We'll balance our chakra, and then I can bring our special guest in. So wherever you're at, just allow yourself to find a comfortable position. Just for a few minutes, give this gift to yourself. And just allow yourself to bring your attention inward and take a few deep cleansing breaths with me so we can land in our bodies. Deep inhale. And then just hold at the top and release with a big sigh. Ah. And then you can, use your throat chakra, right? Just make that sound. So let's do it again. Deep breath in. And then hold at the top. And release. Ah. Just letting our voices be heard. One deep cleansing breath in. And hold at the top. And release. Ah. Just arriving to your body. Just you can bring your hands to your body. Just connect to your body and just breathe normally. You can tell your body, I'm here now. Just allow yourself to just kind of call all your energy in that may have gotten scattered everywhere else. Just bring it in. Bring your energy in. Put one hand in your womb and another hand in your heart center. And then with each breath, just connect your womb to your heart. So you can breathe in and sending the energy from your womb to your heart. And then on the exhale, you send it back to your womb. And then again, connecting your womb to your heart with your breath. Just continue doing that, just establishing a connection. Letting your womb know that you're here. Bringing that energy from the heart to the womb. And from the womb to the heart. And with each breath, just allow yourself to relax a little more. And to soften a little more. And to stretch, just try to allow yourself to become heavy, relaxed, open. Just allow yourself to release your jaw, make sure your jaw is soft. And then your pelvis, with each breath, you allow your pelvis to soften. It's okay to relax. It's okay. It is safe now to open. And then on our next breath, let's bring our awareness down. Just imagine you are an ancient tree. Just visualize your ancient roots deeply rooted on Mother Earth. Establishing a connection with the mother. Feeling the anchoring in and their support. Being held by Mother Earth. And then releasing any tension, giving that to the mother. And with each breath, just continuing to relax and to soften. Creating that connection so we can release our layers to the mother. And then on the next breath, just bringing that energy up, breathing in the yin energy of the Mother Earth, her healing warmth energy into our womb. Just allowing the energy to come through to your womb and just allow it to circulate. Circulate over your body and just receiving. Receiving, allowing, opening, relaxing. Allowing yourself to let go of any tightness, any tension. Just nourishing our bodies and our systems, balancing our systems. Regulating our nervous system. And now your next breath, I'd like you to imagine a blue light over your throat chakra. This is radiant blue light, seeing expanding, permeating. And notice around it a white light that covers all around your shoulders. Just allow yourself to feel if there's any blockage, any tension you may feel in your throat chakra. And just allowing this blue energy, this blue radiant light. Just move, activate, bring stillness. And regulating your nervous system even more. Just allowing the throat chakra to balance out. And you may notice any sensations, you may notice a difference. Just become aware. Let's continue to allow that energy. And then just calling in the quarters for us, calling in the mother to be with us. Starting with the element of air, which is the element that we get to honor today. Thank you. Calling in the east. The element of air, our opportunity to breathe, being so grateful for the opportunity to breathe and be alive. And then calling forth the south and the element of fire, of transmutation. And in the west, the water, nourishing, cleansing, purifying aspect of water. And in the north, earth, holding us, supporting us with all the bounty of the earth. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And of course, the Gray Mother. Okay, so allowing the energies of Gemini to enter into our sacred circle, a sacred space. Welcoming the energies of the new moon in a couple of days. And being grateful for the opportunity to dance month after month through the different cycles, the different signs. And with that, just slowly just bring your attention back into your body, and you may open your eyes whenever you are ready. Just slowly. Okay, beautiful. Hi, Natty. Oh, you're together. You made it. I see you. So beautiful. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to invite our special guest, Francesca, and I'm going to allow her to introduce herself. And she will guide us through nonviolent communication. Yay. Do you need me to share my PowerPoint or not yet? You want to say hi first?
Yeah, I'll say it first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
All right. Awesome. Can I scooch it over a little
Yes.
bit more?
There we go.
Are you still seeing somehow?
Yeah, so we can put that one. Yeah, perfect. You want to change the view to speaker maybe, Kim?
Uh, All right. So, hello, sisters online. Hi. Some of you are new to me, a lot of you I know. Hi. So hello everyone. I am so excited to be sharing tonight. And I want to say, as you were, thank you, Claudia, for the opportunity and the invitation. As you were sharing more about Gemini and especially the connection like with the intellect and the masculine, it's funny, I felt so good. Like before I felt, oh, I'm like too in my masculine for most of my life. And now that I feel like so much more connected to my feminine, I felt like happy to hear that. And at least I think for me, a lot of my healing journey, I felt like I was too in my head, and it was like the mind or the intellect was like something to get away from and like into the body, because we're so conditioned to like be in the mind and split the two in like Western patriarchal society. And what I've been healing recently is like, we don't have to make the intellect or the mind wrong. Like, it doesn't have to be a problem. It's actually, it can be a really beautiful aspect of us. I feel like when all parts of us are in balance. So that came up when you were sharing.
Yeah, I love it.
So yeah, I am super excited to share. I'll share a little bit about myself, and then review like the flow of what I have planned. And we'll just flow with the timing. We'll see how it goes, especially with Monique. So what I wanted to share just about myself, like for the purpose of this particular conversation, is a couple things. So one is I work, as I think all of you know, as a mental health therapist. And prior to my work as a mental health therapist, I worked for about 12 years in different nonprofits with underserved communities, mainly undocumented immigrants, domestic workers, and domestic violence survivors. And today I work with the LGBTQ community, mainly transgender individuals. And that'll come into play as we learn about nonviolent communication, actually, and its origins. in work with communities that have been historically on the sidelines. The other thing I'd like you to know about me is that my healing path started also about 12 years ago. And specifically healing developmental trauma and complex trauma, sexual trauma, clinical major depressive disorder, and disordered eating that resulted from my sexual trauma and partner abuse. And the ways that I've mainly worked through a lot of that has been both through Buddhism, Buddhist practice and community, the trauma-informed yoga practices, a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy, and somatic experiencing therapy as well. And, was so transformed by the somatic practices that I got certified to teach yoga and specifically teach to trauma survivors for several years. And, I share all that to say that I feel what qualifies me, I think, to share this information is like absolutely not my formal training in nonviolent communication. For those sisters online, I was sharing with the sisters here that to be certified as a nonviolent communicator takes about like 3 to 5 years of extensive training. So I'm far from an expert, and I do not represent the Center for Nonviolent Communication. So, but I feel like what qualifies me is as much like my practices over the years of like harming myself and like victimizing myself, blaming others, judging others, and like creating learned helplessness for myself. That as much as like my work to go into those patterns and like repattern them, right? To like understand just how much they harm me in my relationships and my well-being, and to repattern them to create like a more peaceful and wonderful life. And I was gonna say, I feel like I'm like a toddler at best, and I'm like, that's not true. Like, I'm not a toddler in this work. Like, no. I feel like I'm more like a 6th grader. Like, I was like, I don't feel like I'm quite in high school because they're like freaking masters of this, right? So yeah. And so my intention tonight is really just to like expose us to this framework of nonviolent communication and consciousness, and then plant seeds like for those sisters who want to dive deeper. So like point you to specific resources to go deeper with this work if it calls to you. So we're going to basically start with like an overview, a conversation. A lot of this will be me talking. There'll be some interaction for sure. And we will get to do like some practice and the skills in breakout groups. But yeah, a talk about like so what is this nonviolent communication? How is it developed? How does it relate to spirituality and ancient wisdom traditions? The core tenets, the barriers to implementing it, 4 practice components of nonviolent communication, breakout practice, and then suggestion for further reading. I know it's ambitious, but we got this. We got it, hopefully. Yeah. We got it, right? We got it?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Vote of confidence, please. So, I was gonna ground us in a brief meditation, but that was so beautiful. So I'm just gonna actually keep us moving, and we could close out with something brief. So dear sisters, anyone, any thoughts? What is nonviolent communication? What do you know about nonviolent communication?
Hey, it's Tasnova. I have been, well, I don't know if I should speak if I sort of already dabbled in the book. Is this like is this a question to someone who doesn't know?
Everyone is welcome. Yes.
Okay. I started to dabble into it last year, and my brain is is still learning to surrender to the concepts. However, to answer your question, I understood nonviolent communication to, like, simply put, be translated into compassionate communication. And definitely learning about what compassion really means, like what empathy really means. I'm realizing I don't really know. And just a little bit of share with nonviolent communication. I learned English is actually my second language. It's I'm pretty sure I like somehow learned it in school. I don't know who actually taught me, but I did not speak that at home. And I learned that in my native tongue, I have more communication in anger than I do in love. Like, I did not know how to speak in loving, compassionate ways because I didn't even have the native language to do so. So it was very interesting to experience nonviolent communication, and try to really sink my mind and understanding and language concepts into a compassionate thinking for myself and others. So yeah, I think I believe it's compassionate communication.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love, Taz, that you were sharing about the language concept, because one way that, like, one metaphor that I like to use for this is that nonviolent communication is very much so like learning a new language. And which in turn, which we'll get to this in the tenets, but language shapes our perception actually of like the world. And so, and in that process of learning a new language, I don't know, has anyone here ever tried to learn a new language?
Tried.
Has anyone succeeded learning a new language?
I'm almost fluent in Spanish.
What's that?
As I'm like closer to being fluent in Spanish now. I'm having more confidence in it.
Yeah, and so those who've gone through the process, like, you know, it's like clunky at first, like
Yes.
it, and you sound weird.
Yes.
And there's different levels of literacy, right? And eventually you get to a point where like you don't have to effort so much, right? Because you don't have to like work so hard to do it. And if you're hard on yourself in the process, like it's gonna be harder to integrate it. So yeah, nonviolent communication is
Lisa raised her
Oh.
hand.
how do I just does she unmute herself?
Yes.
Yeah,
Lisa.
I'll unmute myself. Hi, I'm Lisa. I don't think I've had the pleasure of meeting you, Francesca, but nice to meet you. And I just wanted to say I'm also a mental health counselor. I worked for an agency that was trauma informed. It was a trauma agency in Miami, Florida. And I introduced the concept of nonviolent communication because it wasn't part of their modality, but I did use it especially with clients that had issues in relationships. Like I had a man whose marriage was falling apart, and I tried the cognitive behavior approach. I tried pretty much everything that we had in the books, and nothing was really working with him and his wife. And then I threw in what I had learned of the nonviolent communication, and he kind of rewired his way of talking to his wife and having a more compassionate and empathetic approach in their communication. And their marriage just went from borderline divorce to like they were going on a second honeymoon by the time that I was done, with therapy. So I just want to say it's an amazing, really incredible approach when you learn it and really apply it. It can be incredibly life-changing. So just wanted to mention it, and thank you for teaching this today and for bringing this, because this can be very, very life-changing for everyone, really. So anyway, thank you for that.
Hey, thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you
You're
so much
welcome.
for sharing, Lisa. As you were sharing, I was thinking about so this is the book that I'll be referencing, Nonviolent Communication. There are several stories in here about granted, I acknowledge there might be bias. It's written by the guy, right? But stories of I trust his integrity. Like marriages that were really at the very close to the end. And yeah, after decades and decades of like, attempting to resolve seemingly incongruent needs and how transformative it is for couples specifically. So yes, thank you for sharing. And yeah, to your point too. So, okay, how do I share the PowerPoint?
Okay. I already have it here. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay.
And then
And then the slideshow. Right here.
Yes, play from
Play
start.
from start. Okay,
Sweet.
perfect.
And here, I'm gonna put this here and use this. Can you sister see on there? Can everyone see? Yeah, okay. So,
Perfect.
what's that? Cool. So nonviolent communication, like one way to think about it is a holistic approach to communication that replaces, right, toxic communication ecosystems. Okay, so, right, violence. Let me actually make this smaller.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so I can see the screen. The defensiveness, right, and divisive speech, right? Abusive speech and division generally. It replaces those ecosystems with a healthy communication ecosystems. Okay. And this operates on, you can think of it as operating on multiple levels. So for our purposes, 3 levels being ourselves, so personal, interpersonal, and societal, right? So on the personal level, like we first use nonviolent consciousness and communication with ourselves to build as a way to build empathy for ourselves. And then to translate our judgments of other people or of ourselves into an understanding of our own needs, right? And then learn how to make requests that get our needs met and make life more wonderful. That's the founder's whole thing, right? Is like how to make life more wonderful for all of us, right? So first, it's a communication and consciousness we use with ourselves. On the second level, right, like interpersonally, we use it to relate to others, like with empathy and honesty, right? And in that process, we increase the trust, understanding, cooperation, and intimacy, right? So interpersonally, we're creating relationships based on empathy and honesty. And then on a societal level, we use it in how we relate to all beings, including non-human, how we relate to nature, the earth, and then in political and social systems. And so in this framework, any work that's done to create like social justice in the world is fueled by empathy, not by anger or indignation at a wrong, right? And these 3 levels are they're intertwined and they're mutually reinforcing, right? As we do it with ourselves, it reinforces the relational piece, societal, so on and so forth. Does anyone happen to know Tatsunova, who developed nonviolent communication? Anyone here? No? Old white man. No, he built on okay, all good. So no one. Okay, Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. So we're gonna.
I was like the M name.
Yes, the M name. So this is Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. He's no longer with us today. Marshall Rosenberg grew up in an inner city neighborhood in Detroit, witnessing a lot of racialized violence. And he was motivated early on to understand like the root causes of violence and to disseminate like peacemaking skills quickly. And so the kind of combination of his life experiences and his study of comparative religions and faith traditions led him to develop nonviolent communication. Oops. In the 1960s, where he first started developing this practice, was in the context of working with civil rights activists, specifically who were trying to desegregate the segregated school system. So we'll talk about her in a second. He went on in his life to lead intensive trainings for tens of thousands of people in over 60 countries and initiated peace programs in war-torn countries, everywhere from Rwanda to Malaysia, Sierra Leone, Sri Lanka, Colombia, Serbia, Croatia, Israel, Palestine, and Northern Ireland. The man's legit. You know, he worked tirelessly over decades and decades with everyone from couples and families to like prison officials and inmates, to government officials, lawyers, and military officers. He founded the Center for Nonviolent Communication in 1984, which today, I mean, has hundreds of trained communicators in over 40 countries in the world. And so on the right, is anyone familiar with that, with the photo on the right?
Well,
Or
it's
no?
very familiar.
Yes. Anyone?
It's
No.
somewhere in my memory bank, but I can't think of her name. Is
Yeah.
it Melba something?
So her
Yes.
name. Oh, sorry. I gotta make sure I'm looking at the sisters. Just unmute yourself if anyone, by the way, online wants to jump in. Please and thank you. So she is, her name is Ruby Bridges. She was in this photo, 6 years old, and she's being escorted. This is in New Orleans by U.S. deputy marshals to her first day at an elementary school, which was formerly an all-white elementary school. And they escorted her. She was the only Black student who was going to be attending this school. And when she arrived, there was a like vicious mob of families yelling racist slurs and throwing garbage at her. And she walked very nonviolently and with dignity the whole time straight past them to the classroom where she sat and studied alone for a year because no other families would let their children in with her teacher.
Wow.
So if at any point in this training you're like, this is unrealistic, or this is like, you know, the stuff for I don't know, idealists, just think about her, think about him, think about war-torn countries, right? So okay. I'm not an expert on Eastern traditions, but I do part of where Marshall Rosenberg was influenced by the civil rights movement, right? And the civil rights movement, specifically nonviolent civil disobedience, that's most associated with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., has a tradition in nonviolent principle of ahimsa, right? That Gandhi used to essentially free India from 400 years of British colonial rule. So ahimsa, some of you might be familiar, those especially who are more in the yoga lineage or in especially Hindu communities, I think Sikhism too, is this principle of nonviolence towards all beings, right? So in the ancient yogic philosophy, there are 8 branches in terms of how you live, right, in the world. And the meditations and the breath work, pranayama and asanas, those come later. The very first 2, the yamas and the niyamas, are how you live in the world. They're ethical foundations. And the very first of the first yama is ahimsa, which is this principle of causing no harm, not striking another, right, or the self. So it's like moral vows in some ways. And this principle is like very consonant with other universal wisdom traditions, right? So does anyone recognize that wheel?
I've seen it. I've seen it. Yeah.
Yes. Anyone recognize that
The
wheel?
the wheel of samsara.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So this wheel is the same way a cross might be a symbol of Christianity. This wheel is one of the primary symbols associated with Buddhism, or the path of the Dharma. And it is said that the Gautama Buddha, after reaching enlightenment, spun this wheel, right? And that's when the first turnings went into place. And then he spoke the suttas, which is Pali for teachings, where he shared what he had discovered in his 6 years plus of meditation, which is the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. So in some wheel representations, this has the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is like the path out of suffering. And one of those, there's multiple pieces, but is right speech, right? So we have right view, right intention, has to do with kind of our thoughts, right speech, right action, right livelihood, concentration, meditation, effort are also part of it. But, you know, he talks specifically when he awoke, you know, he spoke about the importance of right speech. Samavacha is the Pali word for right speech. And so the importance of abstaining from divisive speech, from idle chatter and gossip, and from abusive speech and lying. And he said, you know, wise speech is spoken, he didn't say it in English, right? Then this is what was recorded, right, by disciples hundreds of years later of his, by the way. But wise speech is spoken at the right time. It is spoken in truth. It is spoken affectionately. It is spoken beneficially, and it is spoken with a mind of goodwill, like with the right intentions, with wise intentions. And so in the Sangha, in the Buddhist Sangha that I'm part of, we often, like, the practice is like asking before you speak of like, is it true? Is it kind? Like, is it necessary? Right? So, okay. So this is kind of a lineage we're in. I'm going to run through some core tenets, and we're going to have a discussion about one of them in particular. So some core kind of foundational beliefs of nonviolent communication is that, like I said, language is this lens for viewing the world, right? And the words we use determine how we see things. So if we use words that outsource our agency, then we're not going to experience ourselves as having agency, right? So for instance, he talks about an example in the book where a concentration camp guard was interviewed about why he like inflicted all this violence on Jewish people. And he said, well, I had to, right? Like I had to and have a choice, right? Or if we say in a, you know, something as simple today as like, my boss is making me crazy, right? So we, in this process, outsource power. And when we do that, right, it erases agency, which we're going to get to. Okay. Oh yeah, I think you added her, right?
Yeah, let her in. She.
Yeah. So this similar is this idea that other people are never the cause of our feelings, right? They might be the trigger, they might be the stimulus, but our feelings are our feelings, right? So listening for the difference between, you know, you made me angry when you showed up late versus when you showed up late, I felt angry, right? You hear the difference in the tone, right? So we can choose our reactions, right? Yes. and use language such as like I get to or I choose to, as opposed to like I have to, right? And we can go more into that later. Another idea is that punishment, guilt, and shame and force are ineffective when it comes to change, right? So a child that's telling the truth because they fear punishment, well, when the threat of the punishment is gone, then what happens, right? Versus like a child telling the truth because they understand that it could lead to support or greater understanding, right? So, and the goal is not to get people to change in nonviolent consciousness, which we'll talk about. It's actually not to get someone to do what you want them to do, right? It's to get your needs met and make life more wonderful for both yourself and other people. Yeah. Okay, my favorite. I finally got there. So this is my favorite tenet, which is this idea that all judgments are tragic expressions of unmet needs. Okay, all judgments are tragic expressions of unmet needs. So I'm going to open it up. Who wants to take a nonviolent stab at what this means? All judgments are tragic expressions of unmet needs. What do you think that means? Some ideas.
I can take a little stab.
Sure.
So when you judge someone, it is because there is a need in you that hasn't been met. So for example, if I am a person that people don't understand me, people don't show any empathy toward me, and I have always been judged, for example, or I am experiencing a lot of judgment, then I will reflect that on someone else. And it'll be harder for me to be empathetic and not be judgmental because I was judged. So I will probably, unless I am, aware and have done the healing process to not be judgmental, I will tend to reflect what I have experienced. So I will probably be judgmental as well.
Yeah, definitely. Could you give me an example of, or anyone, an example of a judgment that they had recently of someone?
I'm thinking.
Family members. Let me help you. Think of your family members. Allie.
Well, I wasn't thinking of family, but I was more thinking of work. You know, like, why isn't she doing what she's supposed to be doing? I am, you know? And so I realized, it's funny how I realized that I was judging. I'm like, I don't want to be judging it. Why am I judging? Where is this judgment coming from? And what I realized that it stems from childhood, because a lot was expected of me. I needed to be a certain way. And so like, if I didn't do what I was told, then God wouldn't love me, or my mom would get upset. And so like, when I see people not doing what they're supposed to be doing, it makes me angry, and I start judging because of that. Because like, I do what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
Why can't they?
Right.
You know? So
Right. Right. And so what nonviolent communication says is that judgment. So maybe the judgment is like, she's so lazy or doesn't pull her weight, right? Is the judgment signals a need of yours in this case that is not met, which in this case might be a need for support at work or fairness, right? Or mutuality, right? And so, you know, I like to use other, and so under every judgment is a need that's unmet. And the reason it's tragic is because when we judge, our needs are even less likely to get met, because then there's defensiveness, and that erodes learning and connection. Okay. So a couple more examples. Like if I were to, let's say I had a partner and I said, oh God, he's so boring. He like never wants to go out. Right. What need might that be pointing to of mine? Deeper need of mine.
Yeah, going out.
Connection,
Connection.
right? Excitement, right? A
Mhm.
need for fun, novelty,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that would fall like in the bucket of needs of like for play or fun, right? And we're going to talk about like different buckets of needs that we can start thinking
Yeah,
about.
it's almost like when we judge, we're projecting out our unmet need onto the other person, right? That person
Right.
is somehow illuminating that for us, and we're like, you're not doing this, so that makes sense.
Right. And so, you know, if you have a judgment of another woman, oh, she's so selfish, like she's always putting herself first, right? What might that signal a need for? Like she's so selfish, she just always puts herself first.
Mhm.
Attention also, right? Yeah. A need for attention or yeah, connection with her, right? And this can get down to like this can get to like societal level stuff, right? So the judgment, if someone says, all cops are pigs, judgment, right? Okay.
Mhm.
What could that judgment, what need could that point to? A need for safety. There might be fear there, right? I need safety. It might also point to a value, like needs and values in this framework are kind of needs, values, and desires are kind of put together, lumped together.
Mhm.
So it might signal like a value, like I want justice and safety for all communities. So that's actually like the value there, right? And
Mhm.
so, or something as basic like you're out at a restaurant, it's like God, our waiter is so slow, right? That could point to a need for anything from like a need to hydrate or a need to eat or a desire to be punctual to the next thing you're going to
Mhm.
out of a need to respect the organizers of that event, right? So, you know, now the same would be true for the flip side, right? So if I'm going to say, oh, she's the funniest, like she's the best, she's like she's the funniest woman I know, right? A positive judgment might point to a need that's been met, right?
Okay. I
She
like
meets my
that.
need for joy or happiness,
Uh-huh.
right?
Okay.
So positive judgments are still judgments. We're still evaluating,
Mhm.
right? Make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna get a little more literate. So
It's I just want to say, like, I love this what you're bringing up about the judgment, because it immediately kind of disarms the need to defend, right, or attack, because that's how I perceive judgments, right? Immediately like attack. And so understanding that, right, it's an unmet need, kind of shift the focus to the other person, right? And all of a sudden it's like, oh, what is the person needing versus, whatever it is that the person's saying, right? That we're like, that's not what I'm doing. And it goes in this back and forth. So that's awesome. I love it.
totally, and
Right.
we'll see how we can use this process for ourselves. But then if someone else is in a judgmental or critical place,
Yep.
we can use it to sense and imagine what their unmet need might be, right? And like cultivate the empathy outwards too.
Nice.
So this quote I really like, judgments are distorted attempts to say please. Right? Judgments are distorted attempts to say please.
Did you
No,
write that in
please.
here too?
What's that?
Did you write that one in here too?
I did not.
No.
I
Okay.
can send it.
I like that one too.
Okay, last couple ones. We all have common universal needs. All needs can be met.
Mhm.
Judgments are distorted attempts. What was it, please? To say
Yes, to say please. So the last two ideas is that we all have common universal needs and that all needs can be met. So when I read that last one, that's when I had the judgment. I was like, bullshit. Like what like, rainbow and unicorn like planet is this person living on, right? But so I got to translate that. But and that, yeah, it's our responsibility to get our needs met, right? So it's like really, I think a practice of like radical responsibility. We're not going to go into the whole philosophical debate in societies, right? About like, okay, well, but the government should provide this or what they, right? And the debate around like what's a need versus like and a human right versus like a luxury or privilege, right? So we're looking really at this point at just at ourselves. Okay, so does everyone see these? So these are some buckets of needs. It's by no means comprehensive. It's not exactly the same one in the link I handed out, but it's all good. But just so you get a sense and can start thinking in terms of buckets. So like needs for physical well-being, water, food, housing, rest, touch. Okay, and then we have buckets of connection in the middle. That's interpersonal needs, right? Needs for love, care, acceptance, understanding. Let's see. Trust, reassurance, right? Sense of belonging might be in here. Okay. We also have buckets of meaning, right? Desire for purpose, right? Self-actualization, freedom, right? I like my freedom. I don't know about y'all, but choice, autonomy, individuality, self-expression. We need to like authentically express ourselves individually.
Yep.
And then a bucket for play, right? Liveliness, passion, spontaneity, etc. So something that gets in the process of this like emotional bridge building between others and with ourselves is the biggest thing that gets in the way is being human. It's like, womp womp. Womp womp. So, right. And I don't need to, yeah, being human. It's unfortunate. It's bad news bears. Right. We're prone to certain things as humans. And that includes everything from defensiveness, right? Criticism, judgments, moralistic ideas of right or wrong, or bad or good. Sorry. Ego. I'm sorry. I apologize ahead of time. Ego, right? Which usually underline that is fear, right? And being full, like not having space for more empathy for another person in a given moment, like being full, right? And a lot of like moralistic judgments and like ideas about like bad, wrong, right? Like bad, good, right, wrong, are like cultural conditioning and like family conditioning, right? And we do this as much to others as we do to ourselves. A big one, especially I feel like for us women, the other thing that gets in the way of this practice is not believing that our needs are worthy of being met. And so, you know, this can present like low self-worth and low self-concept, people pleasing as behaviors, right? Putting others first. And the flip side, another thing that gets in the way is not believing that other people, right, that their needs are worthy of being met. So you can see that more when it like presents as like a narcissistic tendencies, you know, where it's like only the focus is on the self. I'm going to, I think for the purpose of the chat, I'm gonna actually hold off on questions and comments for now, but I'll get to them towards the end. So yes, right. And when it comes to a low self-concept, right, that's where something like therapy can help. And we'll talk more about that towards the end, but actually working through that to kind of do that work of like believing that you're worthy of having your needs and your desires met, right? Like they're legitimate and really feeling that. Oops. All right. This is just a PSA. This is a reminder you are worthy of having your needs met, just in case anyone needed to hear it today. All right. Okay. Practice components. So now we get to practice. These are the 4 main components of nonviolent communication: observation, feelings, needs, request. I'd also be happy to send this
Okay,
if
great.
anyone wants it. at any point.
Yes, we can. Share it
Let
too.
me add Regina. Okay, so we start with observing facts. Okay, when we have a feeling or a judgment, right? Facts, not evaluations. So we observe a fact, a behavior. When you did not return my call, da 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 da. When you threw the plate on the ground, da 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 da. Right? A lot of times we get tripped up when we think that we mix facts with evaluations. So what do I mean by that? Okay. When you did not return my call is different than when you ignored my call. Right? Ignored is actually a evaluation of what someone else was doing. Right? Y'all see that? Okay, so I'm just going to ask a couple quick ones, and you tell me if this is an observation or an evaluation. Sisters online, feel free to unmute yourselves. Okay. Yesterday evening, Nancy bit her fingernails while watching television.
Observation.
Observation.
Observation? Yes, ding, ding, ding. That's right. You were right. I don't have candy to give you, sorry. I thought about it, but I was like, no. Can't even imagine candy being handed to you right now. You're both stars. Okay. Observation, fact, observation or evaluation. John was angry with me yesterday for no reason.
Evaluation.
Okay, good. Ding, ding, ding. So we're actually inferring that John was angry. And an example of an observation without an evaluation would be John told me he was angry, or John pounded his fist on the table. Right?
Mm.
Okay. One more here. 2 more. Luke told me I didn't look good in yellow. Observation or evaluation? Observation. Last one. My son often doesn't brush his teeth. Observation or evaluation? My son often doesn't brush his teeth.
I mean, did she see true?
So
Observation.
technically, it's an evaluation because, right, at least according to according to Dr. Rosenberg, I consider often to be an evaluation. He says an observation without evaluation would be twice this week my son didn't brush his teeth before going to bed.
Oh.
Right. Because often is an evaluation based on your perception of frequency.
Right.
Make sense? Okay.
Okay.
Often to me may not be often to you.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Feelings. Feelings. So feelings, right? We want to identify as much as possible feelings, not pseudo feelings, or also known as thoughts. So examples would be, the difference between like I feel dismissed, again, is a pseudo feeling because you're actually interpreting what someone else is doing to you, right? Versus like I feel hurt when you wave your hand at me or roll your eyes, right? So hurt is the feeling underneath the perception of being dismissed. So tell me, sisters.
You went Steve 3 to 5 years in training.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets deep.
Yeah, Abby says,
What'd she say?
This can take 5 years of training.
So we're gonna just go briefly through the rest of the components. And so tell me if you think this is a feeling, feeling or a pseudo feeling. Okay. I am sad that you're leaving. Feeling or pseudo feeling?
Feeling.
Feeling. I am
Yeah.
sad. Right? Pretty. We got this one. Feeling or pseudo feeling? When you don't greet me, I feel neglected.
Pseudo feeling.
Pseudo feeling.
Pseudo feeling.
When someone perceives that they're being neglected, what might the feeling be underneath that? So if you feel like you're being neglected, what's the primary feeling?
Abandonment.
Lonely.
Lonely? Sad.
Sad.
So abandoned and ignored, is that what you, what was the abandoned and ignored would actually be interpretations. So if someone feels like someone else, if my perception is that you have abandoned me, right? Then my feeling might be hurt or confused or scared. Okay.
Ignored. Those were all actions. Right. Not necessarily.
From this standpoint, they're actually evaluations, not facts. Yeah. Yeah.
Francesca,
Yes.
may I share a little bit about why abandonment and ignored is an evaluation?
Please.
Or how,
Yes.
based off of how he said it, there's like a section he pointed out. I was like, oh, so if I'm saying my partner ignored me, I'm saying my feeling is created because of my partner's action. So it's not really a feeling. Whereas like I'm sad, it's just me feeling sad. Or abandoned would still mean an action that someone else took is something about me. You know, that's where the interpretation comes in, because the interpretation is that this person did this to me.
Right.
So still.
Right. So it's still out disempowering yourself.
Disempowering, exactly. Victim.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not to say that in this style of communication there you can never share a perception or a story that you've created, right? In communication. But the encouragement is actually, we're pretty illiterate in this first, in identifying actually the feeling and the need related to it. And so most of us get to kind of start here and tease out pseudo feeling and interpretation from like core feeling and need.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We're like focusing on like core feelings.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like core primary feelings. Okay. So we are going to move right along. Needs. So we talked a little bit about needs already. So sisters, you have your sheets. I'm gonna
Yeah, and then I'm just gonna repaste in the chat the PDF that is that Francesca provided for us. So you can just click on that link, and that's the feelings needs list, right? You want us to refer to it? Okay, perfect. So there you go.
Okay. So sisters, I'm gonna say feelings point to, you can picture an arrow, point to needs. So a feeling points to the presence of a need in the room, the same way that fragrance points to the presence of a flower. Okay, that's one way of like kind of thinking about this. And that can also, once again, be like a pleasant feeling might point to a need that's been met, right? The way an unpleasant feeling might point to a need that has not been met. Okay. The more directly we can connect our feelings to our needs, the more likely we are to get our needs met, right? So this is big stuff.
So wait, can you say that again?
Yes, the more able we are to connect our feelings to our needs, the more likely we are to get our needs met.
Okay.
Right? Okay, and like I said, I think we talked about, yeah, the buckets of needs. You can also look at the PDF I sent, which is a little different. The sisters have it here. So what I like about this one is that it has both on the top feelings, common feelings when our needs are met, common feelings when our needs are not met, and then more buckets of needs, right? So you have everything kind of like on one paper.
And the one they have is different?
No, it's the PDF is the
It's
same.
Okay.
Okay. All right, my friends, we're getting to the last part and then we're gonna practice with each other. So once in a while, we confuse our needs with strategies for getting those needs met. What the hell does that mean? I'm gonna go back to the request here. Okay. It's a lot of new concepts. Bear with me. This is good. The mind's expanding. It's gonna take a while to integrate. And this is just the like shallow, okay?
It's like the tip of the iceberg.
We're doing great. We're all learning a new language. It's supposed to feel this way. It's supposed to feel hard. So, okay. What do I mean by that? Okay. A strategy. So I feel stressed, Sierra, because I need a job. Okay. I'm confusing strategy with the need. The job is the way to get the need met. Make sense? Okay. So what might a job fulfill? What need might a job fulfill?
Security.
Security. What else might a job fulfill? Maybe you have all the money. Okay, income.
Creativity. Feel my need for creativity.
Creativity. Right? So
Purpose.
the need. Go ahead. This one say purpose. Yeah.
Contribution.
Purpose. Structure.
Community.
Yes. Jinx. All right. So, and sometimes what he talks about in long-term marriages, sometimes what the conflict he often sees is that one or both of the individuals in a couple is overly attached to the strategy for getting a need met, right? And so once they understand the need behind it, then they can explore more strategies. All right. So moving on to the last part, which is requests. All right. Once we understand our need, we can translate it into making effective requests, right? We want those requests to be specific, present moment focused, and positive. So not, hey, Sierra, like, can you not call me that name? Right? Can you not call me bitch? Right? I want to frame it in the positive, right? Would you be willing to refer to me as dear or sister or love or my name or just my name? Okay, so we want to phrase it in the positive and we want to make it specific. So if you make a request to your partner, would you be willing to listen to me more? There's no way to like, what does that mean? It's too vague, right? So would you be willing to reflect back to me what you just heard me say right now? Okay. The important thing with requests is that it's a way for everyone's needs to get met, right? We don't want to do it to just change someone's behavior. A demand is not a request. So someone has to be able to be as much a yes or a no to the request, right? Otherwise, it's a demand and it can get very toxic, and that's where non-violent communication kind of goes wrong.
What did you say for requests? You said specific and like 2 other things or 3 other things?
Present moment focus, positive.
Okay.
So do this, not don't do that, right? So like, I don't know, if you're saying to your partner, can you spend less time at work? Okay. It's not specific and present moment focus. So you might want to say, can you be home at 6 p.m. 2 nights a week?
I like that.
That makes sense.
Kids respond well to this type of communication.
It's very much so used in families and encouraged. Yeah. Yeah. All right, my friends.
Even like,
And then you
ones that are like toddlers, like 4 or 5.
I imagine so. There are examples in the book of that.
I'm just curious.
But yeah. I'm good, thank you. Thanks for asking. All right.
And then with the needs, you just say, because my need for this, you just specify.
Right. So
Your
when I
care.
see that uh, what's an example? When I see that you did not return my call,
Mhm.
I feel sad because my need for connection or reassurance is not met. Would you be willing to text me
Mhm.
if you're not able to call within 24 hours? Something, and the
Mhm.
request is ideally something that can be observed or seen, right? That's how you can kind of make it really specific. Versus like, would you be willing to be more mindful? Can you be more mindful, babe? Can you be more considerate?
Yeah, that's great. Yes.
But I am considerate. What do you mean?
What do you mean?
Okay.
Oh, that's
This is
awesome.
what I mean, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, we're gonna move forward. This can be used just as much for ourselves, right? As sensing into the feelings and needs of other people, which is the empathy outside. So when someone else is, going off or seems like they're getting into a critical space, you can also try to listen for what their feelings and needs might be and express that to check for accuracy, right? They'll let you know if you're off base, right? So you want to not just listen for words, but listen for needs of another person, right? So you can choose. You're at a crossroads. When someone makes a judgment, do I want to go inside or do I want to develop the empathy outside? Okay, so let's do some practice. And we'll break out into groups of 2. So you 2 sisters. If you want to work, actually 3, and then Sierra and Claudia.
Mm-hmm.
Does that work? And then do you know how to do this on the computer?
The computer. Okay.
So everyone can just get a piece of paper and a pen. Or you could do this, you could
I
type it.
may have to stop sharing. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
I feel so grateful for like being in various conscious spaces where
Would you like to speak to because they cannot hear you?
I was just kind of like I was bringing it
Yeah.
up. But, like I use some of this language because I picked it up in spaces, but I didn't know it was like this thing. Like, would you be willing to? And like, I don't always do it, but I'm like thinking and running through it. I'm like, oh, I say that sometimes. Oh, I say that. Oh, I do say that so mindfully sometimes. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of like,
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So Kim was sharing that
What,
she's learned in other spaces some of this language, right? So you've been already applying it without knowing
well, like not
specific.
this framework,
Yep.
but just like
Yeah.
having picked it up of
Totally.
like, trying to be a conscious and compassionate speaker with
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And maybe
Totally.
they learned it and spoke to me that way, and then I like integrated it a little bit.
What I'm
Feeling
curious.
grateful for it.
Yeah, I'm curious what and I think maybe a lot of sisters might feel that way too, right? Like, man, I do like I'm not horrible at this either, right? Like I'm maybe also older than a toddler in this, right? So I'm curious, like,
Yeah, you are.
I don't know, just even an exercise of like kind of thinking kind of, what level you feel like you're at, right? And it's not a judgment thing, but just kind of like owning that, like actually I'm like high school level.
Yeah.
Or like maybe
Yes,
someone
you
feels
are.
like at college
is-
level and this.
Yeah.
What's that?
Having your benchmark.
Yes. All right. So how many? We're gonna do 2?
Yeah, we'll do 2.
We're 2 people. Okay. So
So we're gonna,
Okay.
we'll do this practice activity. And then share
okay,
reflection.
we'll have a
close
group.
out.
So maybe Claudia and they're together, so they could do it together. Is Natalie stay with you? Yeah, she is. Okay. Okay, perfect. So the 2 of you can practice. Okay, and then I'm just going to start assigning rooms.
And before we do the breakout, I'll take a vote. Would you all like to practice empathy inside or empathy outside?
Outside.
Outside, if you want to practice empathy inside or empathy outside for our practice. Inside?
Monique, would you like to participate in this, into this exercise?
You go outside.
Make sure I-
I love you, Abby.
I'm gonna do.
Same.
So I'm gonna do, okay, I'm gonna do I have to do a room of 3. Because the
That's
room, oh, no, yes. There we go. Okay, so 3, there's gonna be a room of 2 and a room of 3. Okay, so then what's the, you wanna tell them what to do before we
Yes.
go?
Okay, so. All right, we're going to practice empathy for another, which is the concept of empathy outside versus empathy inside would be practicing those components for ourselves. Okay, so this is going to be pretty simple exercise. So I'd like you to think of a situation, sisters, recently, where someone you knew, right, and you're in a someone you're in relationship with, was upset, right? Maybe in a kind of critical, maybe they're critical or defensive, right? And it triggered something like defensiveness or frustration or criticism in you, right?
Did you want it
Thinking?
tomorrow with her?
No, I just want to
No.
mindful of time. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So
Okay.
yes, we're gonna skip that.
right.
But yeah, so thinking of just a situation recently, and try to avoid thinking of like a highly upsetting situation, maybe something, you know, medium. Yeah, because I know a lot of us have a lot of recently. So- right, exactly. So pick, you know, someone whose neck you don't want to throttle completely, right? Yeah. And who was, yeah, in a kind of critical or judgmental space, and then it triggered that in you, and you were just like, meh. Okay. Keep it PG, y'all. So, okay, you're going to take some time to write down, right? First, what you observed them saying or doing, just the facts. Just the facts.
And you have to, you want us to write it down.
Yes, please. You can write down just the facts, right? What you observed them in that moment.
Triggered a judgment in us. Of something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Or they said something judgmental that triggered like defensiveness or feelings, like unpleasant feelings in you. Okay. So just write down the facts in that situation. Okay. And then after, you're going to write down what you think they were feeling. Right, those primary emotions. You can look at the list, the list of like the universal feelings and needs. So the feelings are on the top. Okay, what you think they were feeling. And then why you think they were feeling that. So connecting to underneath the feeling, what their need might have been. Think about the buckets of needs and or values or desires that were unmet. Okay, values or desires that were unmet. And see if when you think of the need, just you can go through the process of asking yourself, okay, well, I feel like they had a need for space, right? Like personal space. ask one more time. What is a need under that? Just to explore if there might be something even deeper, right? Like, oh, their need for space, they had a need for self-connection. Just kind of asking yourself, seeing about the layers. What did you observe? What were they? What do you think they were feeling? And what need do you think was unmet? And then, so it's just to extend ourselves, one metaphor I like is like, you can think of this as like yoga for like the mind and the heart, right? Like really stretching yourself. Sure, gratitude training people know the stretching concept, right? You can even try to imagine, right? This like kind of being in their shoes, what they're feeling, what they're needing. And then think about a request, a specific, concrete, actionable, positive, something that can be seen or heard. Seen or heard, that they could have asked for.
Can you repeat this? Because I was writing and I didn't.
Oh, no worries. Just the request. Think about a request tied to the need.
They could have made.
Yeah.
Or that you could have made.
No, that they could have made. A request that they could have made to you.
Just say the last instruction again. I kind of zoned out.
Yeah. So the last part is translating like what you think, what request this person could have made of you. A specific request that's positive, present moment, and that can be like seen or can be observed or heard. So like an effective request they could have made to get that need met. Okay, and while we do this, I'm gonna break sisters out into breakout rooms, and when you're finished, go ahead.
Okay, okay, no. So everybody already write it down?
Well,
we're gonna do it. We're gonna actually write down
yeah, like
the facts
keep,
and all that.
yeah, everyone's writing those down.
Mhm.
Exactly. Yep.
That's what we're gonna do all the exercise, and then are we gonna do anything? Like, are we gonna?
Yeah,
talk
and then
about
we're gonna share it in partners. Just share what you came up with, what the situation was, right?
Okay.
And you know, when you took, yes. I want to let you all write. So I'll give you another couple minutes and then I'll share how to share.
Okay. So we're gonna have a group of 2.
Yeah.
And then a group of 3.
Yeah, we'll have Juliana Tasnova. And
yeah, Juliana and Taz going in a room, and then we have
Mama Deborah and Regina. Also, hi Regina. Welcome.
She was trying to make her way in person, but there was traffic, so she's joining us.
It really is like a new language, so powerful. Glad we're keeping it light. Quantifying observation. Okay. So what we're going to do in a little is we'll share with our partners. Like you could share a little bit about what the situation was. If you want to share, you know, what was coming up for you in that moment, briefly, you can. And then share what share your translation of what you think that person was feeling, needing, and what requests they could have made. All right, so I am going to, and we'll just have a couple minutes to share each. So how do I just hit open all rooms?
Yeah, so we're gonna do open all rooms, and then you'll receive the you should receive click the button. Did you see it? You
Me?
just those online, did you see a button?
It usually forces them into it, doesn't it?
No, they have to join. They're doing it.
Okay, they're doing it right. Do I have to do join or no? That would be me going in there.
Right,
Right.
you should be good.
We should be good now, right?
Yeah, I think so, right?
Perfect. They're in there. Yay.
Wait, who's?
First time we've
Oh,
done-
we didn't include Claudia.
They're
Oh, they're
gonna do it
together.
Together, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
They're gonna do it together.
Okay. Yes, so
Awesome.
whenever you're ready, you
Can
guys,
come
y'all
here?
can, you ladies can start sharing with one another.
Perfect. I can go in the corner if you want.
I'm gonna run to the bathroom. And try to keep it to like 2 minutes each too.
It's probably Did you finish writing?
For the end,
Yeah, I finished. It was pretty easy, it just happened. Oh, really? Yeah.
There was a lot of backstock. He assumed that I hadn't run. And I'm like, oh my.
Virgo would be
So just around 30 till by when I left.
Yes. You're Virgo, right?
No, Libra.
Oh,
And
Libra.
we had like literally.
Yes, I
two
wish I had some Virgo,
flashbacks.
but
Well,
I
so
don't
the
know.
feeling.
Who else is Virgo?
I didn't have time.
Happy
And
birthday.
they-
And so I
Yeah,
felt
me.
triggered because.
Kind of
I
like
had
that.
connection just
What it
from
was.
you.
Is it? Yeah, okay, that's why, that's why.
It could have been.
So I'm
Yeah,
like,
I
really
really
give you
feel
a
this
support.
support.
And it was like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I had.
That's
why, like,
I
I can
tried
drive.
to train
I
myself.
felt that
Right.
my first
Yeah.
support.
Covering more of it, but it's not my.
Not my strong suit either. Not at all.
I was trying to explain to him that I did my part, you know, I did do what I was supposed to do. But I didn't expect it to be busy and like now the backstock could go on the shelf, whereas before it couldn't. So it annoyed me for that reason.
But I know that his
I worked really hard on this. Everything to seem like, so like, I get that he didn't want to stop it was, but like, I don't also that part, like how. I mean, I have approached it because I feel like I did approach it and I just like the issue, what happened. I feel like it, like, so. Fairness. Yes, if you wanted me to, he didn't know. I was supposed to.
Mutuality. So is that an evaluation or consideration?
It's validation.
Requesting or no?
Right.
So what is the fact?
I feel like acceptance is underneath that. Yeah, 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 to be like seen or understood, yeah.
Or can it be something you've seen in time?
That's not an okay for us.
So what did you observe? What, like objectively, without any feelings?
I got kicked off.
Sorry.
You just have to describe it without feelings.
Oh, so how do I move Tasnova? If Tasnova got kicked off, how do I move her back to a room with Juliana? Is there a way to do that?
Because there's no, you're not evaluating.
Oh, assigned to
You're just.
room one.
Yeah, room one.
Like if I was watching, if you were watching the situation of you and him, but you couldn't hear anything that you were saying. Like, what did you observe? Just him talking about it, right? So that would be like more evaluation. There's no judgment about what was. Okay, right. He addressed this with you, brought it to your attention. Then what feelings do you think he might have been experiencing? And imagine it would be from the needs not met. That was hard for me too.
I'm back. Juliana wasn't there, so maybe she got bumped off too. But
Hi,
she's here.
I am here now. I saw you left. I was like, I waited for a couple minutes and then
Oh,
no worries.
could you put us both back in?
I'm trying to see how to, I don't think it,
Yeah, because he's in charge.
it only lets me move them to room 2.
And then what could have been.
Which already there's people in there.
Yeah.
Move to room. Oh, that's weird. All right, so can I create one more room?
Efficient.
Maybe not. Or we could just mute and they could talk
You can
here.
do it here.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna mute and
Yes.
you'll do it here because for whatever reason, it doesn't, it looks like room one disappeared. Even though it says you're
That's
there,
weird.
but no
Yeah,
join.
that's you're
Yeah,
there.
maybe I do join. No, that would be us. Oops. Let's see if I do that. Um, without like that.
Like, and you could.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. It doesn't let me create another room.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
If he was
It doesn't let me put you back in that room one.
I just see there's a button for join breakout room still on my screen. So I guess I can go back
one?
into one.
Oh, yeah, go back. If you see
Okay.
it, do that, because the
Okay.
room is already created. You just have to join.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you feel the difference between in one, you feel like I can't say no. The other one is like, oh, I can say yes.
Okay, perfect.
So that's our request. Let's the other person. The other person will feel like.
So,
When it's a demand.
a few weeks ago,
like
I
there's no
uncoupled
space.
with
No.
the guy that
If you say no,
no,
it's
6
your-
months.
Yeah.
And well, it was really challenging, but it uncoupled. There's like a lot of good intentions, but like having a really hard time like carrying me through, and so it caused a lot of
But you
hurt
can stay
on
longer.
her sides, triggered a lot of patterns and different things, and then so I like made that decision. And then the other day,
My
met with
evaluation
him,
is that he
met with him, because like things are so heated in the moment where I had to leave that like not have a conversation. So I had an initial conversation of just like, you know, explaining what happened for each other. And then that felt good. And then the other day, we visited and
And
like just like,
my judgment.
you know,
was that
wanted to
she
check in
really
and see
should
where
be
he was
directional.
at,
Like, she literally gives me like.
what we're
here,
doing,
here,
you know.
Here, and then I'm supposed to.
He wanted to know where I was
figure it all
at.
out together, right? So
And
today,
he said
the
something
observation
about
is that
having a lot of anger and resentment toward me for abandoning him.
add creatives,
And
no creatives,
so
something that
in that,
we had
in
already
that,
approved. Yeah, I know.
his feelings
By her.
probably
2 weeks ago.
hurt,
Like, why are you sending me new shit now?
and
Anyway, so
fear.
my observation is that she sent me no creatives.
And his needs were probably
already approved.
consideration
Then
and trust
the feeling
and
that
understanding.
she might have been experiencing was stressed or annoyed.
and a request that you could have made. That was a hard thing for me to answer, especially because there is a little bit of like social charge around it. You know what I mean? Probably like
focus.
something along the lines of,
And
can
then
we
I request
create
that
like
he
a
put
30-minute
of
container
me is,
where
are you open to
I
a
can
5-minute
express to you
call?
what's
Yeah.
happening
Like,
for me
together on the
and
same page
I
versus a
can
very
understand from
painful Slack
you
conversation.
what was going down, like,
Right,
what happened.
so she could have just asked for, can you just hop on for 5
I don't know if that, I don't know,
Let's
but
work this out so that you know what to do.
yeah,
So that was kind of.
yeah, I feel like that could have been
And then I
a good request,
Like
so.
she was sending
Yeah.
creative, and I like something that rigid, she already
Yeah.
approved.
Yeah.
was there.
Which later on we kind of like did end up doing like a version of that, but it was very much like through, you know,
I sometimes tell them that happened.
we kind of struggle with the,
So like all over the place.
I don't know if it's
sometimes
sometimes that
like
he,
conflicting.
maybe a little bit of a we, more of a he, or
Yeah.
maybe a bias for myself,
Do
like
it
struggle with the
quickly.
conscious language, so it feels like we kind of like, I almost feel like I'm facilitating or like creating that for him, like without him requesting it or expressing his need for it even, but that like I'm sensing it and then I'm like,
That's why I need her.
all right, like, let's.
That's my need.
Yeah, let's go in here. Yeah.
Now, all those things.
Oh, yeah, totally. And I've even had conversations with her where I'm like, Maggie, I love you.
Yeah.
And
Had we had
sometimes
this.
fucking not in your brain, in your brain. I feel like you give me
Right,
the shortest
yeah.
of direction,
Yeah.
but I'm missing
I-
the context of the
Since the uncoupling.
So we talked about it. So
specifically,
today,
it was
we
3 or
both
4
had
weeks
this
ago, I
like
don't remember exactly.
rough moment with like
But
knowing
it's
each
learned
other.
so many tools.
And then
so
afterwards,
much
it's fine,
about
that's just how we relate.
Or I was like,
Couldn't figure it out.
wow, like we could have
And then
like
the minute that I was able to like,
saved each
process
other
what I
a lot
needed
of
to
heartache
do,
here.
I'm done with
you know, just like
Effectively,
effectively, and ownership of my own feelings and my own and then the expression, yeah, and then, yeah.
So we're just gonna take like 1 to 2 more minutes. Okay,
Perfect.
1 to 2 more minutes.
Well, now you have them, so.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
So.
Maybe we can have somebody, but in this, age, we need to talk to them again.
exactly.
Exactly,
Exactly, yeah. Or
It's bigger than just like.
I'll be able to do it with, yeah.
I love it. So mine was also just like interaction I had with my son, the father of my kids, with the boys. My oldest is 15, almost 16, teenage years. First friend, kind of always, you know, he was the one that kind of, we got divorced when he was 4.5. So he experienced a lot of dysfunction, you know, a lot of, all of it, not just everything was dysfunction, but he did experience some of that. So there's been obviously stress, right? I get carried along. So he wasn't really getting along with that, so he wanted to spend more time here. And then the reason why he wants to spend more time here is because I have had like learning different tools to, you know, just listen to him, receive him, be more, you know, like understanding, compassionate, not so harsh. And so the communication with him, with me and him has been harsh. With Dad and Gabriel, that's his son, has been harsh. You know, there's just been a lot of harshness, a lot of conflict. And I just.
Okay, sisters, I'm gonna gather us back
Okay, so.
out of a desire value to respect everyone's time.
And, so basically.
So for those who didn't share, I'm sorry, you can call me later or tomorrow. We could talk about it. I can make myself available for that. Yeah. Yes, yes, absolutely. Okay.
Kind of unload, which he did share with me, and that's something.
Okay, I think I closed the rooms.
That would be a request.
I don't know how this works. Oh, breakout rooms will close in 54 seconds. You have 54 seconds.
For getting it up on the text. I can call you to talk about.
Okay, sisters, I'm sorry to jump in. I'm gonna bring us back.
So, the facts was that the conversation was heated.
That was awesome.
And then the second thing was feeling.
Okay, so we're just waiting. Oh, 24 more seconds.
We need to be accepted and to be seen and understood, because something that Steve actually shared with me in a conversation was, it's like, that I'm blamed, like everything that I was writing for.
Here, Claudia, can I invite y'all back?
Yes. So
We're back. Okay, yes.
I was blamed.
And then I'm gonna go ahead and ask our, welcome back, everyone. We're getting close to closing here. So just so you sisters know, a couple sisters are wrapping up here. And I'm gonna invite some sisters online to share how that is, how it was for them. Anything about the process of doing that activity specifically. Okay, of building empathy out. Yes, I'll definitely get to you, Juliana. Give me a second. I'm just bringing the sisters back. And yes, we will be closing in like by 9:20. I understand if anyone gets to hop off before then, but appreciate the flexibility of you sisters. I know usually we close by 9:15, so.
I don't know where validating coming up with like, oh, need to hear him out, right? And to make like together, accept and acknowledge like what is like feel great right? If I say the things that he's doing and they're doing well, you know what I mean? Reassurance. You know what I mean? I feel like that would be like the blame. That's probably the opposite of it. It's like putting it on him, so understanding him, making him feel it.
Regina says, I'd love to practice more. This is so juicy. Maybe a course is on the horizon. Absolutely. Juicy and realizing I've been using this technique with my dad and his condition. Awesome, Mama Deborah. Awesome. Yeah, nice to know like we're already on it, right? That's what Kim was sharing at one point, right?
In this moment.
Can you hear me, Mama Deborah?
Or maybe I could even like,
No? Yes?
I could even just like express it.
All right, I'm calling the official reconvening. Not very effectively.
Yeah.
Well, in nonviolent communication, you scream nonviolently. So I have a need for us to be together. Right? You don't say, what the hell, right? Like, I have a need for reconvening. Okay. Order in the court. Okay, we're back. We didn't, thank you, sisters. We didn't get to go into it in depth, but in the book, they do talk about like what to do if you're really angry and like you can't access it, right? And they talk about like, okay, either you breathe and you self-regulate or you scream non-violently. So like if a mom wants the kids to put scream non-violently. So instead of being like, put your goddamn clothes away, right? You might be like, I have a need for order, right? Like it's screaming it's screaming non-violently, okay? Or you take a timeout and you leave the situation, obviously, until you're like regulated enough to handle it. Okay. So I wanted to briefly go for a couple shares where we won't be able to hear from everyone, but Juliana, I know you had your hand up. So the question is just like, what came up for you in that specific, not with the whole content, but just in that specific exercise? How was it for you? What came up for you?
I actually came up with a solution of something that I had. I didn't even see it. It was right in front of me, and it was like, oh my goodness, if I just reframe how, I am interjecting with that individual and how I'm my own communication with that individual, then I'm going to try it out and see how it goes. So I came up with a solution and I'm actually really happy about it.
Awesome. It sounds like you figured out how to potentially make life more wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you. And the other person.
Have it more healthy, it was like, oh yes, thank you. I found another piece of the puzzle. My goodness.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Any other sisters first online? Mama Deborah, Natalie, Claudia, Regina, Lisette, Hasnova.
So I'll share. And I have my mom here with me.
Hello.
Hi, so what's very interesting, I was sharing with Mama Deborah and Lisette, was that my mom and I have been recently introduced to nonviolent communication through an attempt at family therapy, which went sideways because the person involved is not here. And that's great, that's fine. But the takeaway that I got from it was that nonviolent communication is really a powerful tool that helps, I feel like, deepen relationships. And it is like a language, right? So I love what you said, Francesca. It's like, what level of school are you in terms of this? Because it can be like very advanced, or it can be like elementary, you start and you can graduate levels. So the example that I gave was, I overheard mom talking to my dad in a certain way. And in the moment, I reacted to how she was communicating with him, instead of taking time to pause and actually like acknowledge what she might have been feeling at that moment and why she was speaking the way she was. So it's like layers underneath of layers, which is already complex enough, but it's like an opportunity for me. Like, oh, okay, how can I be more of a conscious witness, not just a witness of situations, but like a conscious witness. And if I have tools, which I do, like this one, that I can activate in those moments of frustration, whether it's mine or other people's, like hopefully I can catch myself in witnessing other people and then activate these tools. So that's what I was sharing, was the situation and just, you know, kind of what the breakdown was. And so I'll be more mindful next time. I'll be more, what was the word? Not just mindful, but like specific about the need. Like my need is to witness loving communication.
Mhm.
And maybe get more clear about what that looks like.
Right.
And if I have a tool to help support that, bring that to the table, like this one, you know? So it sounds great in theory. I'm gonna try it.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
The first step, right?
Yeah, and to your point, like, you know, when we're so in relationships, when this happens, right, you can share, like in the context of you're observing this interaction at some point, right, you might reflect to your mom, right, I'm imagining you're feeling this and sensing you might need this, right, if you feel it's appropriate. You never want to suggest the request, right? That was just an kind of extending ourselves,
Oh, okay.
right? With empathy, and when we do that, when we guess at someone else's feeling or need, sometimes it actually helps them clarify what their need is, right? Like they might not actually have known, right? So it encourages that as well. Thanks for sharing, sister.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
really love what you just said. Like I'm literally writing it down because that I'm imagining you might be feeling this and I'm sensing you might need this.
Right.
Is that right? Like that would be so helpful to like
Mhm.
inject into especially like conversations with like parents and stuff,
Yeah,
you know?
and in motivational interviewing, which is like a technique in therapy, you can even just make the statement. You don't even have to finish it with a question, right? Because making a statement, someone will usually go deeper and clarify, right?
What's the statement again? Or question statement?
So I imagine you must be feeling blank, you know, you must need some space. So that's a guess at what they need, right? You don't even, it doesn't necessarily have to be formulated as a question. And they might be like, yeah, I really do. Or like, no, like I just need quiet. Like I don't need you to leave. Right. So so you're reflecting what you imagine is happening in their internal world and then kind of checking for accuracy. And yeah, again, the goal is relationships that are based on empathy and honesty, not to change someone's behavior or like force a particular dynamic or outcome, right? It's to try to get your needs met, their needs met, make everything more wonderful. Okay.
Yes. love it.
Maybe one more share from in the room? Anyone? Anything that came up for you in that activity? What was challenging? Any takeaway?
I mean, for me, what came up is similar to what Regina was talking about. It's it's huge because it really brings a focus outward to what the other person is maybe needing, and it just completely changes the whole dynamic of the conversation. And so yeah, so I really feel like I'm excited to start applying it. And I had a hard time with the request, was like what took me a little bit longer but so that's something that I would request, but like if I have the tools and in a situation that I would be making that request, like would you be willing to something in the other moment? But the other person may not.
Yeah.
If they don't have the tools.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mhm.
So I'm going to close out. Where'd the PowerPoint go?
You want me to share again?
Oh yeah. There's a couple resources before
Okay,
we close.
perfect. Yeah, Monique, are you still there with us?
So these are really just intended as,
Yeah, I don't know if she's here with us. Here's the screen. This one, right?
yeah. So spiritual practices that can aid nonviolent communication would be metta meditation, which is a form in Buddhism of loving kindness, right? So you imagine you meditate on well wishes for yourself, like may I be happy, may I be safe, may I have my needs met, may I be peaceful. And then you visualize that for others, right? Someone that you love, that it's easy to have caring feelings for, and then people who are more challenging, right? Practice where it's safe. Don't go to someone who's like really triggering, at least to start. Some people for compassion like to work with Kuan Yin, right? Bodhisattva, and really like embodiment of compassion practices. And then Tonglen meditation is one I've been working with recently, which can be very intense. So I don't recommend it if you don't already kind of have a foundation in loving kindness meditation. But Tonglen meditation is actually a meditation where you breathe in. It's a sending and receiving meditation. So you're breathing in someone else's pain and suffering. And you're emptying yourself almost like a hologram and then transmuting it and actually exhaling compassion or love or empathy. So it can be very intense for some people, but it's a beautiful practice. And there's some meditations that I do on Insight Timer that are really, really beautiful. I can send. Want to dive deeper? Don't ask. This book, Nonviolent Communication, is a good starting place. On YouTube, Cup of Empathy, she's a certified nonviolent communication trainer in the Netherlands. She no longer makes content, but she's got incredible stuff. Everything from like how to use it with your child to what to do when your partner hates your nonviolent communication to like everything under the sun.
I love
And then the website is the Center for Nonviolent Communication. They have a lot of resources as well. Oh yeah, go for it.
Yeah, and then you can share this with us, right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I'm happy to share this for sure. And then the last thing I would say about like working with a therapist, like therapists are generally already trained to support people in further developing emotional and social skills and relational skills. And I do feel like this takes it in another direction or another level of it. So you can always ask, like you can always ask a counselor or therapist, even if they're not trained or familiar, to say, hey, this is interesting to me. Can you read up on it, get on board and like practice together? Like you could definitely advocate for yourself like that. And then I personally do not take private clients. I'm hoping to in the future, psychedelic assisted therapy, do that work. But right now, I don't take private clients, but I am very passionate about connecting people to mental health care who are struggling mental health wise. So if you do feel like you need that support and have barriers, whether it's like money, resources, whatever, I'm happy to help you try to get care. Can't guarantee anything. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Francesca. This was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I learned more than I realized. It's got to soak in like a good piece of bread and some bone broth. let's do that.
Yeah, and we went, right? We've been in like the intellect and the mind and like the masculine. So again, it's kind of supposed to feel this way. So like, yeah, let it seep in and yeah, we get to do what we need to do to transition back, right? And integrate and balance out again. Thank you, Mama
Yeah,
Deborah.
exactly.
Oh,
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
welcome.
So we're gonna close our circle. Any last comments, any shares? Anybody want to add a few words?
No.
Feeling
Good night,
good?
ladies. Good night,
right.
sweetheart.
Yes. We're
I
gonna
was
close.
feeling
Yeah, go ahead.
I was feeling inspired to share Arun Gandhi's foreword in the book from he's MK Gandhi, like the Gandhi's grandson. And the foreword is really like inspiring and beautiful, just as like a message of what this work is capable of doing. Can I share that? It's pretty short.
Yes,
Yeah.
please. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. Of course. So this is from Arun Gandhi. One of the many things I learned from my grandfather, the legendary MK Gandhi, is to understand the depth and breadth of nonviolence and to acknowledge that we are all violent and that we need to bring about a qualitative change in our attitudes. We often don't acknowledge our violence because we are ignorant about it. We assume we are not violent because our vision of violence is one of fighting, killing, beating, and wars, the type of things that average individuals don't do. To bring this home to me, grandfather made me draw a family tree of violence using the same principles as are used for a genealogical tree. His argument was that I would have a better appreciation of nonviolence if I understood and acknowledged that the violence that exists in the world. He assisted me every evening to analyze the day's happenings, everything that I experienced, read about, saw, or did to others, and put them down on the tree either under physical, if it was violence, that's where physical force was used, or passive, if it was the type of violence where the hurt was more emotional. Within a few months, I covered one wall in my room with the acts of passive violence that grandfather described as being more insidious than physical violence. He then explained that passive violence ultimately generated anger in the victim who, as an individual or as a member of a collective, responded violently. In other words, it is passive violence that fuels the fire of physical violence. It is because we don't understand or appreciate this concept that all of our efforts to work for peace have either not fructified or the peace that we achieved was only temporary. How can we extinguish a fire if we don't first cut off the fuel that ignites the inferno? Unless, as he would say, we become the change we wish to see in the world, no change will ever take place. We are all, unfortunately, waiting for the other person to change first.
Thank you, sister.
You're beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Kimi's asking about the definition of violence.
There is kind of a extended one in here. Maybe I'm just thinking for time's sake, I could share that in the chat.
Yeah, we can
Would
share
that-
as a follow-up.
Yeah. Okay, just for the
Yeah,
sake of.
let's do that.
Is there like a one-liner that you would like summarize with?
So
And you can say the answer.
yeah, I mean, I don't want to butcher it. Yeah.
That's good. We can do
Yeah.
that as a follow-up. Do you want to close with just like a close eye and maybe the
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely. So let's just take a
as
couple
we've
breaths.
been in the mind,
sisters.
just a couple breaths and then
Sisters.
we're off.
Closing. Yeah, thank you so much for your flexibility and understanding.
Thank you.
So you can rest your hands on your thighs and bring the shoulders back. Dropping the eyelids down if it's comfortable. And go ahead and take a long breath in through the nose. Sigh it out the mouth. Drop your shoulders, relax your jaw. Inhale deep, draw it into the heart center. Sigh it out. Feel the face relax. Eyes around the muscles. And then just drop in for a second. Connecting with the breath body. Connecting with the heart body, the mind body. And what we'll do to close is we'll bring our palms to touch in Anjali Mudra blessing gesture, bring the thumbs in to touch the sternum. Right, the thumbs representing that connection with the self and the pinkies representing that connection with higher power. And feeling each palm touching against the other. Connecting to a moment, for a moment, to gratitude. And so we take a moment to honor the lineage of these teachings and the many teachers that came before and all the efforts in the past with the right intention, wise intention to create more peace and freedom and happiness in the world and more peace in our relationships and our internal lives. And so we set an intention with the thumbs to the heart center. May we have loving and peaceful intentions. We bring the thumbs up to the third eye center. Setting the intention, may we have loving and peaceful thoughts. And then bringing the thumbs to the lips. Setting the intention, may we have loving and peaceful communication. And bringing the hands back to the heart center. Take a big breath in together. Sigh it out. Let it go. And then option to bow the head to the heart center to seal in the practice. Our work together. And in Buddhism, we dedicate the merits of our practice always to the peace and freedom of all beings everywhere. May all beings everywhere benefit from our work today.
Yeah. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Beautiful. Thank you. That was so beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good night, sisters. Thank you. Good night. I love you. Thank
Good
you.
night. Thank you, sister.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sister. Thank you, Claudia.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good night. Thank you for being here. Good night, loves. Good night. Good night.